Have you ever had one of those dreams where everything feels incredibly realistic, but then you wake up to the realization that none of it happened? But then on the flip side, you might have some real life encounters that kind of feel like deja vu or like something that actually did happen in a dream, but now it's happening in reality. These are kind of my feelings when it comes to me thinking about the PlayStation Classic, because it was like 1 minute it's all here in front of us, then the next nobody's talking about it, nobody's selling it, and I don't see it anywhere. Today we're talking about the PlayStation Classic, where it's been, where it's at, and whether you should pick one of these up today. As of yesterday when I'm recording this video, it has been exactly a year since the PlayStation Classic's launch. What have I done with my life since then? Absolutely nothing. Almost what the PlayStation Classic has done since its launch as far as its sales numbers. This tiny throwback console fell about as hard on its face as you could imagine, and it's a damn shame. Wow. When I first heard about the PlayStation Classic's announcement, I was extremely excited. The PlayStation is pretty much the sole reason I have the interest that I have today. Games like Gran Turismo, Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, and Twisted Metal pretty much molded the shape of how I saw video games. So when I heard about the PlayStation Classic, I was pretty ecstatic, seeing as I didn't have a lot of fond memories with the retro Nintendo console, so this really felt catered towards me. However, when it came out that the games being offered on the PlayStation Classic barely at all represented my childhood, it became very apparent the direction the PlayStation Classic was taking. Because the first glaring issue with the PlayStation Classic was the abysmal games list that was announced for it. The console was only coming with 20 games preloaded, so when it was coming with things like Super Puzzle Fighter, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, Mr. Driller, Intelligent Cube, it just seemed like a damn waste of an opportunity. But the PlayStation Classic was coming with some pretty solid titles like Tekken 3. That was a game I played the hell out of on the original PlayStation. It's the sole reason Tekken is one of my favorite fighting games, and it's pretty much the only fighting game I ever even touch. And it was coming with a lot of other games like the original Twisted Metal, cool I guess, but then it had games like Rayman and Siphon Filter and Final Fantasy, which are all good, except that they really weren't on this console, but we'll talk about that in a second. Overall, though, the games list was pretty underwhelming for most people. I almost really want to just say it was overwhelming for pretty much everybody that was in attendance for this thing. You had big name retro YouTubers like Metal Jesus Rocks just flat out canceling their pre-orders, and when you have something like that going on, the hardcore enthusiasts giving up on this thing, you pretty much lost the market. I haven't even mentioned yet that this thing was $100. That's right, $100 for a poor performing console with a lackluster games library, where the games that you do want to play on it don't really run like they should. You are essentially buying an expensive disappointment, and this was pretty much the combination of reasons as to why this thing failed in stores for the average consumer and to the enthusiast. It was just too damn uninteresting for the enthusiast, and it was too expensive for the average consumer to just make an impulse buy when they were doing holiday shopping. I think the final hit of bad press and nail in the coffin for this thing was the obvious oversights that they were making to rush this thing onto store shelves to sell for the holidays. So while this thing used PAL versions of the games, it was running on an emulator that was open source. This wasn't an in-house emulator like the one Sony would use on their previous consoles, making it obvious that this thing was outsourced to quickly be thrown together and sold for the holidays. The emulation techniques used were unoptimized, and this was made obvious by the fact that you could basically plug in a keyboard and flip a toggle to change the PAL games to NTSC, which wasn't available to you to do yourself with a controller, only if you plugged in a controller and figured it out yourself, which pretty much every owner of one of these things did, and every owner of one of these things did a lot more than that. They pretty much fixed the console on their own. They added RetroArch to these things, so you had an alternate way of emulating PlayStation on the PlayStation Classic, seemingly giving better results to some people, while also allowing them to put whatever PlayStation games they wanted on this console. But of course, while having RetroArch on it as well, they could add pretty much anything they wanted under the sun on this thing. You could play Dreamcast on it, Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo. You now had a whole world of options, and pretty much the entire PlayStation library was available to play on this thing, with just some simple modding. All you really have to do this is plug a flash drive into this thing, and it does all the work for you. And if you don't want to get a flash drive and even put the files on it yourself, and you just want to play some games, there's actually these little USB sticks you can buy on Amazon that just have like 200 games preloaded on it. And literally all you have to do is plug this thing into the console and they're already there on the home screen. It's actually pretty crazy. Oversights and bad design of this console aside, 5-year-old me would be freaking out if he knew that this was going to be possible. But while modding made using this console actually feasible, it could not save the sales of it. I don't think I've ever seen a little game platform in my recent generation flop so damn hard on its face and never come back. I think not even a month into this console's release, like a couple weeks in, this thing was going on sale for 60 bucks. I remember walking into Best Buy and there were just towers of these things being marked down for sale. And it's a damn shame because I think it was a completely missed opportunity. But there is an upside to all of this, a nice silver lining if you will, because this thing rapidly dropped in price. I picked mine up for I think it was like 25 bucks or something. This thing dropped all the way down to $20 in no time at all. And I think right now you can still pick this up on Amazon brand new for like 35 bucks. And like I previously stated, when you actually get around to modding it yourself, it's actually a damn good emulation device. And credit should be given to where it's due. The actual design of the PlayStation Classic is really nice. It's a faithful recreation of the original console's design. And the controllers feel like brand new original controllers, and they work with USB, so you can actually plug them into other devices like your PC as well.
Like I did when I played Tekken 7 with him. You can check that video out right here. Go, please check it out. Thank you.
You can essentially make your own PlayStation Classic build now, put all of the games that you want on it, and play them almost trouble-free. I don't think the emulation is perfect, but it is damn usable. Even if you were just looking at this thing for content creation, it is probably one of the easiest ways to play PlayStation games and get a pretty good output with them with a controller. Somebody's gonna correct me in the comments, but whatever. I did a video comparing Spider-Man on the PlayStation 1 to Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4, and if I didn't tell you, you would probably have no idea that I recorded all of that PlayStation 1 gameplay on the PlayStation Classic. All of my experience with it was totally playable, and if worse comes to worse, the console and the box it comes in makes a pretty nice desk ornament. So, in case you were doing some holiday shopping yourself, looking for some stocking stuffers, or you were actually looking to treat yourself to one of these because you were wondering if they were worth picking up a year later, I would say they absolutely are. If you have any interest in one of these things whatsoever, you will definitely get some use out of it. While it's not very great out of the box, it's not hard at all to get it exactly the way you want it, and I totally recommend playing around with it. If you can pick one of these things up for 20 to 35 bucks, I definitely think it's a deal. If for nothing else, the two controllers it comes with are very solid controllers, so if you were looking for a PlayStation controller, there's an option too. The PlayStation Classic. It sucks, but I honestly really love it. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Did you ever pick one of these up yourselves? If you did, let me know what your experiences with it are. Admittedly, mine's collected a little bit of dust in recent months, but I was still looking to pick it up and play some Gran Turismo. Getting some gameplay for this video will be fun, so that's nice. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed, maybe consider subscribing, liking, all that stuff. And I also have a Patreon down below you can check out. Thank you, Brady and Exeat, for supporting it, and stick around for some more content soon. It's been T. Later.
Stop it! Don't open that door!
Ooh.